Hey, it is Tuesday. This is Trekland HQ. Yes, especially when it gets tightened up. And we are live. Surviving those slow times, Star Trekking. Don't forget the other anniversaries. Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live, number 402, with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47. And yes, the Trekland Treks, your home for customized away missions that you decide you take with my help every step of the way for a great day tour around Southern California for the real Star Trek locations you have always wanted to visit with my help. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us again for a Tuesday. Going to wait for everybody to come in and populate. Whoever is still around, they can get into the chat here. It's a Tuesday. What can I say? It's a Tuesday in June. We're waiting on Strange New Worlds. The first round of the big summer cons is broken out this last week. That's, for a lot of folks, that's kind of what's the high point of this year right now. I mean, we're waiting on Strange New Worlds, but we're definitely in thinner times for Star Trek. And that means less new stuff to deal with, but that also means, hey, kids, this is the way it was in the 12 years of fallow times. And yeah, we had movies. We had movies that people didn't quite still figure out where they fit in the big picture because they weren't going to. But as a standalone, they were something. I'm talking about the JJ movies. But really, there were years when we didn't have even a movie going. We had, of course, the years, well, the original fallow times when people didn't, it was an existential thing. And from what I'm reading, we may be at an existential moment for Star Trek even after a couple of years go by. We'll see. That was the rather heavy topic we got into last week. So I tell you what, while we wait on Strange New Worlds, while we get through a slow June, waiting for more summer cons to come down the pike, let's take a little bit lighter tone this week, okay? So hang on, buckle up for that. And while you do, I'm going to say welcome to everybody. Welcome to all of our regular TTLers. And welcome to all the new folks who are here for the first time. Maybe you're wrapping up. Maybe you're warming up for all the Tuesday live shows that seem to have gravitated to Tuesday for some reason. So glad to see everybody. If you are new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, sound off in the comments. Let us know where you're coming from. What's going on there? How's the weather? How's the trekking? Is it as slow everywhere as it seems to be everywhere right now? Or what's going on special in your neck? Were you just at? Where? Were you just at? I keep wanting to say WonderCon. No. Were you just at FedCon? Were you just at Wonderfest? Were you just at Trek Long Island? There was another notable convention this week. I have gone blank on it because I didn't realize it was happening. I'm excited. I'm going to be at SoonerCon in about 3 weeks, I think. And if you're in the greater Southwest Plains, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Kansas, Arkansas, SoonerCon is not little rinky-dinky little corner drugstore convention anymore. You want to get yourself there. For one thing, just on the Trek, on the MediaCon side, they've got Garrett Wang and Ethan Phillips, on top of moi not having to be the only Trek rep there this year. So I always love to get back with my home peeps and support what's going on there. It's a good old-fashioned charity fan convention of all stripes. There's cosplay and anime and legit authors, legit artists, art show. It's all the best of the old school lit cons and all the best of a Comic-Con fan type media con. And yes, it's at Norman, Oklahoma, right off I-35. And it's a very aware, very supportive, dare I say, very woke convention. No, it's and there's kids stuff. There's so much kids stuff going on too. So I want to make sure everybody knows that's coming up the third weekend of June. And I can't wait to get back. Well, it's 19th, the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Just for starters, but there's so much going on. We've got so many more conventions to come for the summer after this. I'm saying this because I want to get everybody in the comments going. And especially, look, if you're a lurker here on Tuesdays, that's fine. I think I had a lurker pop up last week for the first time and jump in. It's all on you. We go at this time every Tuesday if you are new to 2TL because we have a global reach this way. And so, especially when I'm on time, but even now, we've got folks from continents around the world with us. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to everybody bopping in, the regulars and the newbies. This is a soapbox week. This is a theme week. And gang, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't have this theme until, about an hour ago or less. I was really debating. It's always like a come down to have an ADA because you can have an ADA anytime. And ask me or an AMA. An ADA is Americans with Disabilities Act. And an AMA is not only the American Medical Association, but in online times, it's an Ask Me Anything. And I kind of have no boundaries on AMAs because you do that with me on Twitter and Blue Sky or even Facebook. So I kind of feel like my barn door is open all the time. Not that barn door. So I'd rather keep it to a real theme and then let everybody bop off after that. And I have a mini theme that I go to occasionally that I'm going to hit today. Okay. But also I'm going to say that if you are watching us later on YouTube, don't forget you can jump in on the commentary too here. Please like and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't already. And a reminder to everyone that if you're watching live, the YouTube comments are going to pop up with everything when you're watching on YouTube and Twitch. If you're watching us on Facebook, you're only going to see the Facebook comments, okay? YouTube is also where you can slide us a very much appreciated because we are otherwise not monetized, but YouTube is where you can slide us a super chat donation. That's always appreciated here. So, yeah, this topic this week, it's a lightweight, it's a fun one as opposed to where we went last week. And if you didn't see last week's episode, I beg you to do it because we kind of went micro to macro and back again on 2 or 3 different levels. And I'm kind of proud. It's one of those landmark shows that I'm kind of proud of. I'm also curious to see in 5 years to look back and see how it sounds. You know, the way I talked about toxic tubers in the beginning, or the way that this thing, Zoom, was going to save us all during the pandemic, save civilization, much less fandom and our sanity. Yeah, as we come up on the 10th anniversary of Portal 47, but only 5 years since the pandemic. No, what I want to talk about today is something it's amusing. I point it out every so often. In Star Trek, we're a major part of pop culture. We invented half of pop culture here, even though a lot of the world doesn't realize it's still part of our mission. And one thing we love in pop culture is we love some anniversaries because they kind of fill out the year, right? The same way holidays do. They're markers, they're guideposts, they're comfort zones. As far as watching time go by, it's nice to have something orderly in the chaos of the world, the ever-changing chaos of the world, right? There's some things you can count on. You can count on football season or baseball or whatever your season is. You can count on holidays. You can count on the change in the weather, and you can count on First Contact Day. You can count on Star Trek Day. You can count on, well, go through the list, all your movies, all your TV shows, from September 8th on down. You can count on those, and they're fun to celebrate. And they're always, thank God for podcasters and news sites. They provide, a shower of, yet again, more interview excuses and stories and things to populate the world. But, deep down, they're fun. They're how we mark the year. And in some ways, depending on who we are, or I should say what part in your life Star Trek plays, it can be just as important as Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's or whatever a holiday somebody else celebrates. Arbor Day. Hey, I'm all for trees. I'm all for not repeating the Dust Bowl. Don't get me wrong. But there are clearly some holidays, some actually holy holidays, and some that are just marker days. that people don't hold in near as much esteem as First Contact Day or Star Trek Day or, I know the Bell Riots anniversaries. Go down the list. Go down the list. We now have Pioneer Day, right? The anniversary of the first launching of the NX-01, thanks to Picard Season 3, in our litany of fictional as well as real Star Trek days. But here's the thing. In slow times like these, when there's not a lot going on, when the studio isn't throwing a lot at us and fandom gets creative and we mark holiday. And you know what? When we're talking about fan anniversaries, well, what's the gathering point here? People always remember the premieres, which is typically what? The fall. That's most of the TV series, and that's a lot of the movies. The holidays are big movie time, right? The movie openings. And then we've got, well, the mid-season shows like DS9 and Voyager have their mid-year, their January premieres, right? Then we've got the summer blockbuster, the years when Star Trek movies came out in the summer, about this time. In fact, hey, happy anniversary, June 1st, to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, right? On this date, in 1984, big anniversary was last year, right? It was the 40th. Yes, the 40th. So happy 41st to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, which is one of those that people love to go back and revisit because they don't think it gets the love that it's due. Fair enough. Fair enough. And of course, springtime, often, no matter when a show started, a series started, spring is often the finale anniversary, right? So I don't know. We just had, did you know this? We just had yesterday the finale of What You Leave Behind on its first airing day, because of course DS9, like TNG, aired across a week depending on the market because it was syndicated. There was no uniform show day. But the first day, the Monday night of the week of the syndication debut week, What You Leave Behind premiered yesterday date in 1999. Party like it's 1999. Here's what always gets me, though, about series premieres and series finales and movie premieres, because they clump. They tend to clump in the fall, at the holidays, early summer, and maybe lastly even early winter for the mid-year, which doesn't even exist anymore now. Once we get away from network lineal worlds for viewing, people concentrate on the high points, and that's cool, right? Just like people look at their own, people remember their 30th birthday and their 21st, maybe their sweet 16, their 40th, maybe their 65th, because it's retirement, at least in the old world. Yeah, people even have their personal birthday landmarks, right? And we have wedding anniversaries. Everybody gravitates to 25th and 50th and 20th and 10th and 1st. Oh, yeah. But the thing that all of these do is they ignore the life in between. This is what's always got me. I always love about Star Trek. There are very few times we break out of the finale premiere, mold on celebrating anniversaries. And it just struck me that, look, it's a typical month here. I just did some work for another benefactor, and it brought me to mind in this time when we are a little low here on major headlines for Trek as we wait, as we get dribbles out of what so-and-so said at a convention somewhere. For instance, yes, June 1st was the anniversary. It was the Star Trek premiere date, Star Trek 3 premiere date, right? In 1984. But look, 3 years later, it was the first day of shooting on stage for TNG. Yes. The last Friday of May was the first day of shooting on Next Gen. They went out to the Farpoint, the holodeck. For Farpoint, they went out to the holodeck. It was at Ferndale in Griffith Park. Yes, the premiere of Next Generation had one shooting day. Because they wanted to show off the sets and go big time, right? They weren't thinking so much about scope as they just bought these sets. and wanted to show them off because it was the comeback. Now, DS9's premiere, a lot more location, obviously. Enterprise, a lot more location, tons of location on the Enterprise on Broken Bow. And a little bit on Voyager. Well, a lot on Voyager as well. But only one day at Ferndale Park in the Creek, Data, Wesley, and Riker. But this day, the 1st of June, 1987, was the first day of shooting on the stages. There was a big hoo-ha there. They were on the Bandy Mall because they had to shoot on that first, take it down, and then build the Q courtroom there. They weren't even on the bridge set yet for real shooting, which was another cause of celebration and photography. But there was Entertainment Tonight had a story about the first day of shooting, but it was all on the Bandy Mall, on the Bandy Mall. But that was 1987. And you know what? These aren't 0 and 5 year anniversaries, right? The big ones, but they're still the things. They're still the things. Here's a finale that very few people do. Today is the anniversary of the finale of Turnabout Intruder. Why does it not get more love? Well, because it's Turnabout Intruder. And it wasn't designed to be a real finale, because I got into a thread the other day. Somebody said, wow, Turnabout Intruder is going to be the lousiest finale anywhere. And I'm going, it's not a finale. It's just the last show they made. It's very clever what's happened in the streaming era. We've talked about this. We have gone from being on the bubble and wondering if you're going to get renewed to, now usually you knew by the time a show aired, but this was kicked back because of Eisenhower's funeral, and it should have aired like a couple of months earlier, but it got kicked back to June. It's almost time for Apollo 11. Apollo 10 has flown to the moon and back without testing. No, in Earth orbit without lunar orbit without landing, but testing the lunar module. Weeks away is Apollo 11, when Star Trek's finale ends. Turnabout Intruder is not a great show. You can retcon away Janice Lester in the lineup, but you don't have to shoot yourself in your Star Trek optimism about feminism and equal rights. You just make Janet Lester crazy and say your world of Starship women doesn't include me. She's crazy. She's been rejected. She deals with her rejection. People that are hung up on that line, it may have been a wacky going out the door mistake as Star Trek was unraveling the team. No one was paying attention, or people were sleepwalking through the last days. But it's okay. Otherwise, Turnabout Intruder's bigger crime is the last scene of the episode is Kirk and Spock and Scotty just get in a turbo lift. It's so dramatic. Yeah. Turnabout Intruder's anniversary today, 1969. What is that? 52 years ago? No. I shouldn't do math on the run. You know what I'm saying? Now look, tomorrow, okay, major anniversary. Tomorrow's the main opening in the US of the Wrath of Khan 1982. Not a 0-5 year. Big anniversary. You'll see a lot of people talking about the Wrath of Khan's, 2 days before D-Day. Not in real time, but on the calendar. But look at this. And then on the 9th is Star Trek V's anniversary. Okay, fine. Yay. But you get to the 10th. Here's the thing. On June 10th was the day in 1977. You're saying 77? That was the day that the Paramount television service was announced by Paramount, with the flagship show to be Star Trek. Star Trek 2. Star Trek Phase 2 was the name that got retconned later on. Yeah. Is anybody going to celebrate June 10th? In another couple of years, it'll be the 50th anniversary. So we're at 48 this year. The anniversary of the Paramount television service that would have grown into the original fourth network and beat Fox by 10 years, nearly, much less the WB and UPN 20 years later. Yeah. Barry Diller, who's making the rounds with his book, was behind this. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. The 12th and 13th of June, the 2001, 2 days of location shooting in Bakersfield, California, standing in for Broken Bow, Oklahoma, which is hysterical. Cornfield. No, it's forested in Broken Bow, but it's okay. We found out there was a farm growing corn a little south of Broken Bow back in 2001. Of course, who knows after World War III what land use patterns are going to look like. But for now, there's almost no corn near Broken Bow. Broken Bow's down in the timber corner of Oklahoma, down the corner with Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas. But it's okay. I retconned this 25 years ago. It's fine. It's all good. But that's the anniversary. The first shooting of Enterprise on those location days, 2 days in Bakersfield. Right. And then the 16th, the second draft of Where No Man Has Gone Before. Yeah. Where No Man, as in 65, which is a big anniversary that'll get celebrated this year. The shooting of Where No Man later this year. We could go through the day. There's a special one coming up later this month that I'm saving for a special occasion. So let me just jump ahead, okay? There's some real world Star Trek anniversaries happening this month. June 19th is on this day in 2151. It's first contact with Andorians at the incident at Pajem. Sure, yeah, on this date in 2078, the SS Conestoga arrives at Terra Nova, the new colony. Their setup, their first establishing on this day. And gosh, 2078, that's not long after first contact to begin with. What is that? We've got 53 years to go. Get on the ball there. You can do this. You can do this all the way down. And what's also cool is on June 24th, on this date in 1966, was the day, June 24th, that Sandy Gimple shot her day as the salt vampire for the Man Trap. I know it premiered September 8th, but June 26th. See, when you get into call sheets, when you get into records, memos, hello Trek Files, the Trek Files, everything else, Portal 47, when you get into the records, you can populate your lineup of anniversaries. So many more things to celebrate when you dive into the records. See where we go? And we haven't even talked about the spit. It's one thing to intellectually say this and know this. And then, of course, you can do posts. You can memeify things. Oh, but hey, what about building props? What about CGI? What about cosplaying? I mean, the Star Trek anniversary industry complex can yield so many more spin-off industries, don't you think? Actually, it already has. I'm having so much fun with this. And then June 25th, Farpoint wrapped its first unit photography. You get the whole gamut, right? They started May 1st, 31st, 29th. Had the weekends off, obviously. And then wrapped on primary filming, first unit photography on June 25th. And then even bigger than that, on June 27th, 1967 was the date that Desilu's formal date of sale to Paramount happened, which a lot of people mourned at the time. The next day, they had a transfer ceremony, cut a ribbon. Lucy was there, and it was the last day she ever set foot on the lot. It was hard for her. Gang, there's a lot to celebrate. And I've just kind of danced through June. I haven't hit everything. There's in-house, in-universe anniversaries, but there's also real-world things. And I kind of even avoided birthdays. Happy birthday a couple of days ago to Anthony Montgomery coming up. There's birthdays, there's death days. June's always bittersweet to me because of Dee's death on the 19th, was it? The 11th. And I remember where I was and all of that. About to go on stage to the opening ceremonies of a con in North Carolina, in High Point, North Carolina. See, you never forget those things. And we were the ones that this was pre-cell phone days, gang. Not even video, just, texting. In 1999, we heard about it as we're about to go on and help do the opening ceremonies. And I announced it to that convention, and we had a moment of silence for Dee. Yeah. So I think we were due for a little bit lighter approach this week after last week got very heavy. I'm just saying that as we count down to Strange New Worlds, as you count down to your convention of choice, or you know what? Not everybody can make it to a convention. I'm hoping that there's something near enough that even if it's a day trip, you can make it to, even if it's a big club event. And, blessed be the prophets and Heokalis that people have clubs and organizations. Maybe now we are inverted. Things start online. Things start with social media. Maybe somewhere there, and I know this happens, there's a Facebook page that goes live. We'll do it live. And they set up whatever they call a home base. Sometimes it's inherent. Sometimes it's just wherever the administrator's home base might be. And if it's gathered around, a ship chapter of one of the national organizations, whatever it might be, Starfleet or Federation, IFT, or it's a meetup club, whatever. It's an away team bunch. If there's something going on near you, you're going to enjoy that. And it's summer. So, hey, it's summer. But whatever's going on, whatever is filling up your time with Star Trek, here's one more thing. And every once in a while we come back to this. I mention it all the time in passing. It always kills me how series get thought of as their premiere dates and their finale dates. Everything in between, 95% of the time gets overlooked. And that's where the guts of anything are. Documentaries, to their credit, have to talk about research and development. They have to talk about legacy. And a lot of times they're limited, especially on screen. Book form, maybe not so much. Obviously, the Next Gen Companion, we got to wade through everything kind of equally because it's a book. But when you get on screen, sometimes the tentpole events, you don't forget them, but you only get to wonder. There's a cast change. That's the biggie. Worf is coming. Seven is coming. That happens. But so much of the Sturm and Drang, the day-to-day, that's worth remembering. If you're a fan of that show, if you're a fan of that movie, it's worth remembering. And they get overlooked. So as we uncork, as we unwrap, as we unearth, well, I have a ton of it there, but sometimes it's just getting the word out. But as Memory Alpha populates, and I'm glad that we're formally hooked up now, the Trek Files with Memory Alpha, and a lot of everything we're posting for our documents of the week is getting fed back into. It's not just that they're a database for us, but all of our information from documents now is feeding and enriching the entries in Memory Alpha. And I've seen that happening over the years, but after 3 or 4 or 5 years of that, especially from the pandemic and a slowdown, I looked at buddy and producer John and said, we're generating so much actual documented factoids here. Why is none of this in Memory Alpha? And what started off as a drive to have a community space really morphed into just a partnership there. So I'm getting ahead of my Trek Files reminder this week. But because we've got so many more resources than we used to have, and they're widespread, and you don't have to look so much. In the early days of online world, it was a little bit like the old days of magazine world. Oh, look, I've got a photo nobody else has, so I'm an expert. I'm relevant. And the early days of online was that, oh, here's an anniversary no one else knows about, but I do, so I'm going to post a post and get 1 million shares and likes. And now we have a great small d democratization of the online world. And the more of those kind of dates and things get put out there, the more the images are out there. It's not so much for the people that had something cool, but the thrill of sharing, because the credit gets detached most of the time, unless you're really, really, really hardcore wiki comments. So I've long ago made peace the fact that my historic picture of the Voyager landing as they shot it on the brown paper at MSG, it's just out there. It's just gone. So yay, Star Trek. But on the other hand, things like everyday nuts and bolts things for giving us something to remember, marking the year, being true to our fandoms and the shows and movies we love, beyond just remembering the start and end dates, right? It's like a tombstone with the birth date and the year date on there. There was a lot more to that life between the birth and death dates. The people need to be remembered. If you remember them at all, hopefully there's somebody you care about, and what came between those years deserves to be remembered, and not to equate human beings with the shows that we love and people are spending hours and hours and months and years of their lives getting to know, enjoying, plumbing the depths of. It's worth having all that there. And if nothing else, in times like these, well, in times like these of slow trek headlines, in times like these of insanity happening in the outside world so much of the time, and leading us to look for a mental health break, to have something to fill in the gaps it otherwise be. Have I made this into a PhD level webinar yet? I don't know. We just went through some dates in June. There's a whole rest of the year here to go through. So if you are short on time, if you're short on things to take up your time, then there you go. There you go. Maybe do some research. Maybe do some reading. Maybe you can find some background books, if not on what's available online, but you can poke around and see. Maybe it's the personal lives of the people who are the on camera or even off camera. And maybe it's their lives and their achievements and little whatever it is to do. This is the fallow time, and we may be getting a lot more of this in another year or two, depending on what goes down with all those larger issues I talked about last week. But for right now, there's always something. After 60 years nearly, there's always something to celebrate with Star Trek. In fact, in a few more years, maybe we will have, and when more is generated about the current era, the Secret Hideout era here, and there's enough to fill up a full calendar, and we can get it out there to people, maybe we'll have an on this date, one of those books where every single date of the year has that kind of a calendar. You can put that together roughly yourself. But I'm talking about having something for every day, having the whole year filled out, and then having something to illustrate it with, and it could be a desk calendar. The calendar folks should love that when they're almost not licensing any other merch. There's always a calendar. Okay, gang. I had one other thing I wanted to mention this week, aside from my major topic, just a shout out. And if you're listening to the Trek Files, you'll know about this. But want to give a yell to our friend Bruce Horak, yes, Hemmer, and just to know that he's got an Indiegogo going for his documentary called Boldly Going. He is painting, yes, he's legally blind, but he is sighted. He can pass for sighted, as he did with Hemmer, as he did with the K-pop Klingon. You can check out his, he's, I don't know, midway through it. He's trying to raise whatever he can toward this documentary, which is very insightful about a blind, partially sighted person's path. As an artist, he's painting people. Go check out his Indiegogo site. It's kind of amazing. It's still happening. And I just, want to do that shout out, as well as a shout out again for SoonerCon is next on my schedule. And if you're anywhere in Greater Oklahoma, North Texas, Eastern New Mexico, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, you want to get yourself to Norman. SoonerCon's number 33, and it's bigger and better and homier. Very fanish, very homey, whatever your slice of fandom is, Trek or otherwise, however you express it, cosplay, anime, artistry, or you just want to take a professional author's workshop, up and down the line, as well as have a ton of fun. You got kids, they will have plenty to do. And it's a great hotel. It's a great venue. I love it. It's one of my favorite places to have a con now. I'll be there. I'll be there along with Garrett and Johnny Ethan, and we'll have a lot of fun. Yes. I'm going to take the mid-season break here, the midway break. Don't go anywhere, all you live folks. If you're watching us later on YouTube, though, hey, I hope sometime you can make it live on a Tuesday. But until then, make sure and leave a comment and make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the bell, do the things. Okay, everybody? Yeah. Oh, and as for everybody, the rest of you, please, please, please stay healthy, do all the things. Stay woke, check the sources, and trek well, everybody. We'll see you next week. Okay, I have back scrolled. I may have guests the next 2 weeks, gang, but depends on what happened. I wanted to go light because we got kind of heavy last week. And not quite as light as an ADA, but there you go. I'll answer anything in the chat here. There is something going down, though, and it's only been the last 18 hours or so I've been aware of it. I'm talking about what's going on with the NASA budget, potential budget, and the effect on science and gutting a lot of things. And it's a ways to go, and the world will rise up. And NASA and science should be bipartisan, and I think in many ways it still is. But I was not up to snuff enough about it. Apparently, there's headlines and news breaking last night and tonight. It probably won't go away. I know we're on ridiculously manic news cycles these days. But sadly, I bet this will be with us for a while, and I will have more to say publicly on that topic later on. I didn't want to do an injustice by trying to jump in today and talk about it when I really haven't got to be briefed and prepped for it. So I found a halfway compromise in a week we got pretty heavy last week. I'm waiting to see some follow-up stories. Meanwhile, let's dive in and let's see how everybody is. And I'm back scrolling. Yes. So always good to see Carl up in Salt Lake or near Salt Lake, and Christoph, yes, and Cake. Hi, Cake. And everybody, Melanie and Joel and all of that. Everybody. Thank you. Always good thoughts, Sean. Yes, Wanda, it certainly is. Hey, Scott, you're here. Good to know. Okay. Thanks for that. Sounds good, Melanie. Yes. Okay, Wanda. See, even the JJ movies get better with time. Hi, May. How are you? Yeah. Now, what now? Long Island members of the Star Trek family were there. Their Zoom watch party starts AYT 4 p.m. PD. It's a repeat. I mean, they filmed and they put it together into a piece. That's cool. I would love for Long Island Trek to survive, because they need to grow. And I would love for them to be able to have me sometime. Anne Marie, I haven't seen you in ages, even in text, girl. Yay. Changeling test. What pet did O'Brien have in TNG? The name or the species? It's funny, because now the name of the spider is the actual name of a Star Trek cast member, regular cast member. Hey, Jim. Hey, how you doing? Good. And it's nice to know you're a Trekophile. Although, it's spelled with an F. It's Trekophile spelled with an F. That's what makes it special, because it's like file. But glad you enjoyed the Inside Star Trek album. Yay. I'm going to hear from the Portales this week, tomorrow night, and then the Europeans next week. But Christoph, you want to give me an early report? I saw a lot of the video. Apparently, Liz was just queen of the ball all weekend, queen of the con. Well, Christoph, thank you for all of that. Thank you for all of that. You can't see the end of this. We'll see what happens with that documentary of mine. If we can finally get it over the finish line, that might be an impetus to bring it over. Yes. Oh, who posted the most chats or super chats? Okay, there we go. Hey, Tobias, long duration, no vocalization. It's been a while, but good to see you. Hey, Alan, good to see you too. Let me see here. Oh, you know what? I did not do my closing thoughts. I need to do the closing credits. I thought that felt a little empty. I thought it did. Scott, make a marker here, okay? I think that's going to do it. And I just want to say, as we head into summer, it's a perfect time. Maybe I should do that again. I see, Alan, I saw your name, Alan. I thought of Patreons and I went, wait, I didn't do. Oh, wait, it's a cascade. That's going to do it. But I want to remind everyone, too, it's summer season. People are vacationing. If you're headed to SoCal, it's a great time to take your own away, customized away mission with Trekland Treks. That's me as your concierge, your planner, your prop wrangler, whatever you need. We'll have a great time. I know we've had some Trekland Treks veterans are in the chat room today. Most of all, though, I want to thank all of our Patreon folk. Yep, that's Chuck A., James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Hubbard Gunn Johnson, Lawrence Todd, Greg Wickstrom, Mitch Keith, Andrew Jasimski, Justin Weir, Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions, Chris Jiggins, Keith Rombach, Comedy Forecast, and my live wires. A little bit more each week. Thank you so much. Jesse at Crusher Convo, who's crushing it with her show. Chris Garris, who's crushing it with his podcast, Transporter Room. I'm telling you, gang, we have good folks in my Patreoners. Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Gary Williams, James Dervidge, Dave Gregory, who I enjoyed seeing on camera recently, Dan Leckie, his podcast, and Casey Shafsky. I'm going to get in trouble if I start mentioning podcasts because some of you may be the third string host and I didn't know it, and then I'm insulting somebody. But what I can say for sure is I really appreciate everybody doing the Patreon. It is $5. It's $10 a month. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. Check it out. I appreciate the support for the shout outs you get. And then for I need to fix the link for the early behind the scenes guest night recordings from the first few years of Portal 47. That's the second tier. We keep it simple on purpose. I really do appreciate that. And yes, it's the Trek Files is up this week. New episode. And here's the thing. I talk about my Patreon. I love it when you can come in for $5 or $10 a month. If you can afford it and you love the Trekophiles, if you're a Trekophile spelled with an F, spend $1 a month more. Get the whole mission log from Roddenberry. Get their Patreon. You have access to their Discord page, and that's where, aside from all the other Roddenberry shows and hosts that are separate from a show, you can get to the official Trekophiles meetup page. The message boards are there. You can talk with fellow Trekophiles spelled with an F. Also, I'm there every other Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific. It'll be next Monday again, Trekophiles Tonight spelled with an F, for an hour or more. And it's all Trek Files basic. I love hearing feedback. Finally, we have a community space, but feedback in real time from some of our big fans who never miss an episode of the Trek Files and what they want to do in the future. And, as happens, spin-off topics there too. So thank you. The new show is out today. I'm losing track exactly where we are, but it's another great one. Yeah. And I'll return now to your regularly scheduled chat. That was funny. Funny for nobody but me. Oh, well, thank you, Tobias, for jumping in. You kind of Well, that might be the thing, Sean. They may have the documentary up and then they're retaining the DVD extras as some kind of incentive to go ahead and buy the DVD. It's a tough thing to when people feel like they've donated and isn't that enough? It's like, no, it's not. These things live forever. They can kind of gnaw on you. The passion and the desire to get it done and recorded for history doesn't take away the fact that you still have to feed your family from the money that you took and put into it on your own. Yeah. Hey, Dave, everybody's popping in and bopping in. Yes, exactly. Hey, Sean, here's an actual question. Are the actors less honest at cons nowadays than they were in the past? Anything said is on blue sky within minutes, whereas in the past it was just rumors what was said. Well, that could be true. But the thing was, even back in the pre-social days, I mean, the old guardrail used to be on stage anyway. If you're talking about not what was said at a room party at 2 a.m. maybe, but on stage, the old joke was, don't do something that Rick is going to ban you from the lot, much less fire you on Monday. Travels fast kind of thing. But sometimes, even those days, it would be on paper. Someone would report it. It would take a while to get into some newsletter or fanzine, or be a letter that's an interstat, and then within a month it's out. Things would kind of slow down a little bit. They could still be shocking. They could still be a lightning bolt that has repercussions. But occasionally things would happen. Oh, I don't know. The first season blooper reel from Next Generation being stolen from storage. And that cut off. The blooper reels from the wrap party were never again ever allowed to be accessible outside of Rick's office. That's the story I was on. That's why that one blooper was out for ages, and you never saw another one because people had that expectation from the original series bloopers. But that's because no one expected anything. It was like the original series created a world that nobody in the day expected, but by the time you got around to Next Generation, you expect it. Right, in the later movies, the later original movies. But I think another factor that happens here is they're being honest. Well, is their show in production, or is it on the bubble, or has it been cut off and they haven't even unspooled? We've had shows. Now we have the phenomenon. I started to say this earlier. We have the phenomenon now where instead of being on the bubble and it's a black-white decision, we have people who their shows are canceled, i.e. ended, and then they're celebrated for a year and a half, right? We saw that with Discovery. We saw it with Lower Decks. It will at some point happen to Strange New and even Starfleet Academy. That's the way of the world now. You don't hang. Oh, you're canceled, and people go into an uproar and have a letter writing campaign. No. Now you're ended before people even see what happened. You can't be pissed. People do get pissed, and it's happened, say, like with Prodigy. Like, does somebody want to make this show and finish it? It still can happen, but the impact is so much less than it was in the classic case, like with the original series and other shows since, a lot of other series since then. And where an actor in their series is on that spectrum, that time frame might depend on this too. When you have no F's to give anymore, and they're not exactly going to make a movie out of your series, And if there's not even any existing shows that could fit having you as a legacy character, I guess there's always a holodeck and always having a video film record. Like Cochrane in the pilot of Enterprise, even back then. And yeah, but the old days was a pastiche too, depending on who it was, where they were in life, where they were in relation to their role, much less their series. There's times Frakes still gets chided for dropping too many, and other ones too, depending on how much clout they have. The ones who were just hired a year ago, all the little kids on Starfleet Academy who are out before we even see them in their role, being, like at the FanFest nights. They're being very cautious. They're trying to be breezy and funny and clever for social media and, TikTok clips. But they have to watch it. They have to watch it. Oh, well, happy birthday, my figure. My gosh, I don't know when you have time to celebrate anything. You're constantly posting. Thank you for reposting when I have something decent to say. Yeah. But happy birthday. Hey, Robert, it's good to hear from you, my man. Good, sir. I hope everything's good in Kingman. Well, exactly. It's a little unfair to say it's the worst finale. It was never meant to be a finale. They didn't have finales of shows. That's why The Fugitive, a couple years before this, was such a big deal. It was like, they're going to end the show. Of course, that was an anthology, a chase, a runner. It made sense. And half the time, people were canceled without knowing. They shut down for the year and nobody ever had a chance to have a big hoo-ha goodbye party. That was a rarity. Very few people went out on their own terms. And then that started to change finally in the 70s. The Mary Tyler Moore, I'm going to end the show, right? And have a show. Bob Newhart, MASH. People started doing ending shows. All in the Family just migrated over. Yeah, exactly. 56 years. Absolutely, my figure. Yeah. Star Trek 5. You mean this as a compliment? Oh, Star Trek 5 looks like an episode of the series. Yeah. This is very true. Hey, Uncle Steve. I've been to Broken Bow. Bakersfield is no Broken Bow. Yeah, they wanted a cornfield. I know. It's more like Broken Bow is no Bakersfield. Well, they were going to film, I think they wanted to film in Iowa or Nebraska, and it wasn't the right time of year. In the normal, that was a big thing because they filmed, look when they're filming in June, and they had just, what was it? They had just cut corn, or the fields hadn't ripened yet, and they wanted ripe ears of corn on the, remember the effects, the shots? They wanted to go up and film in Iowa or Nebraska, and they didn't. It wasn't the right time of year. Because what's happening in time-wise when they launch in April, so that's March, April when it starts happening, and that's not when they're filming. So yes, it's just the bottom corner. Dirk's used to be Dirk's Post was a big deal down the very corner of Oklahoma down there. It was very timbery. There's a lot of lumbering going on. Yes. So there you go, Carl. Glad to be your educational instrument today. Yeah, and Steve, I was there right after. I think I was there in 2001 and took a lot of pictures of downtown Broken. I'd never been to Broken Bow until this road trip when I made it a point to go over there. And wanted to take some film photo pictures still. In fact, what was weird was the first boss I ever had, the first editor I had her hat at a weekly paper. She was now the editor at the Broken Bow paper. And I was going to go in and say hi, but we were running short of time. And I knew if I walked in and said something, it would turn into a whole conversation. I mean, when I was like 19 and 20, hired me. And they were probably close to retirement. And yeah. See what I mean? Oh, this is a good, well, Memory Alpha is your friend, Joel. That's a good question, though. What are the really rare things that actually happened on leap year, February 29th? That's funny. There you go, Carl. Absolutely. It's become a minor industry, and that's cool. I mean, I'm not against awareness and spreading fun stuff, right? Right. Oh, my figure. Well, yes. People, you should meet people, much less. People can thank you for all the incredible amount of posting you're doing in lieu of getting out. See, everybody's contributing how they can, and you're doing an insanely great job. Yeah, yeah. Well, this is a thing. We'll see, comedy. I keep meaning to take a reading. I had no doubt that FanFest would be back. Part of this has to do with what's Paramount's attitude about it too. So is the invitation extended? Is the invitation accepted? Is there any kind of partner reach out? We'll see. We will see. What's wave purple box with a crown and numbers? I think that's a thing on, is that a thing on YouTube? Aw, Dave. Well, there you go. The best of both worlds, best of all worlds. Maybe. Hey, Ian. Hello, sir, to you. Yes. Live long and prosper. Oh, YouTube is encouraging us to chat more, which seems really necessary. Yeah, there you go. Hey, Sean, am I noticing a decline in tourism? Won't be traveling these. Oh, there is a huge decline in tourism. Yes. And I mean, the tourism and travel industry as a whole, there are airlines that are dropping. There was a story recently about some of the European-based airlines, Lufthansa, British Air, Air France, KLM, Scandinavian. What's the Swedish airline? SKS. What is it? But a lot of them are dropping, like Chicago, New York, LA, Miami, Las Vegas flights because of the drop in demand. Don't blame them. But there you go. Your opinion's policed and wasting your time getting turned back for being honest. Yeah. Well, this is true. I mean, I was trying to be a realist, but there you go. I've had characters I've been emotionally attached to. Sure. Of course you do. We still talk about them here. And what they mean, different times in our lives, what they mean to us, even as we know we haven't disassociated, we still know they're fictional, right? And we do care. And that's what started Star Trek fandom, was a bunch of fans came together over the depiction of Spock as a character and loving it, and also sounding off when they didn't think it was being treated correctly, and thinking, well, if you're not going to make more Spock in Star Trek, then I will. That's where the fan fiction movement came from. People who loved something so much they didn't want it to end, and they took the power themselves. Self-empowered fandom. It all started with Star Trek. I'm telling you. Yeah, on a mass scale, especially. People don't get that. Well, Glenn, I'll try not to give you too many demerits. There we go. Well, my figure, I appreciate that on this day. There's a book, or there's a potential book like that for Will Rogers, because his life was so documented, especially by the time he was writing his daily column. Last 13 years of his life, he was somewhere every day, much less, his earlier life too. And he's one of those people that's in the day before social media, and you could track what was going on, and you can, getting to the point, you can pretty much do that with Star Trek. Well, there you go. Like I said, 10 years ago, this was a big thing. Now, lots of people are finding the niches to fill. There you go. Oh, Cake, I know. We'll be hearing and talking a lot about this to come, and just know that it's not. None of these things are final. That's part of it. They're just. This is a budget plan, which is better than roaming gangs of tech bros just walking in and announcing things without any authorization or process or procedure, or ignoring the safeguards that are there just to prevent this kind of thing happening. You all do know that we have the civil service because President Garfield was assassinated. You do know that they had been talking about, it takes a crisis or a disaster sometimes to kick people in the butt to do something that should have happened already, right? If nothing else, it took Lincoln to be assassinated for the Secret Service to really be put together as it needs to be, not just private random guards, whatever, right? President Garfield's assassination is what finally kicked Congress into having a Civil Service Act, where it wasn't just, in the old days, especially like Andrew Jackson, people would come show up at the White House in person for government, all the little dinky bureaucratic jobs of the little tiny government. There were still dozens and dozens and probably hundreds of jobs the government needed fill. And it was like old time, small town. When the new bunch came in, you'd turn everybody. The famous one used to be postmasters. Postmaster used to be a very political job that changed with every president, much less every party. It's why the postmaster general used to be like half the time the campaign manager of the president goes and takes that over. So, yeah. But there's nothing about NASA that should. We're in a modern age. Oh, I was going to say, so Garfield's assassination, he was shot by a person who didn't get a job. He'd shown up and asked for 1 or 2 or 3 jobs. They always say he was a disappointed office seeker. And finally, they had the Civil Service Reform Act that set up things that they would be coming or going. You didn't get hired, you didn't get fired. You had to make it on a meritocracy and get in. And yeah, it's very bureaucratic, but it's very bureaucratic for a reason. Now, that isn't not a knock against service, but it's supposed to be insulated, same as the military. It's supposed to be insulated because the politics are always going to swing, and we have things that are important enough they don't need that. The people that work at NASA should be above that. Unfortunately, the people at NASA's budgets have been, but it's gone this year from just projects to cutting into people. And that's what's just set off the alarms. And we'll talk more about that. So thinking about your sister-in-law, Cake, and thinking about apparently thousands of others and the projects they do. They've had tornadoes in Wyoming, haven't they? It adjoins the plains. But yeah, it's not as crazy as tornadoes in California. But there you go. There you go. Oh, thank you, Christoph. You'll have to show us. Your Klingon keyboard from Cherry Tree is now signed by 2 Klingon characters. Yep. Oh, there you go. Star Trek family, shout out for their online. The Kelvin movies were rewatched and found to be much better after people saw the Star Wars sequels. There we go. What is this? What is this, Melanie? Roddenberry, US? Okay. Oh, is that for the yay, thank you for posting that. Um I saw that video. That was kind of amazing. Frank Santani saying at the yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't need to. I don't need to. It's fine. There you go, Comedy Forecast. The topic is Trek and the Comedy Forecast podcasts. See what I mean? See what I mean? Everybody, please note. Yep. This is kind of true. This is kind of true. Yeah. Hey, Pedro, right? The Enterprise Blu-ray conversation between Brandon and Rick, the latter being told about the shuttle being taken by a fan, which leads to Rick looking very angry, was 2012 after leaving. Well, it was auctioned. It's not like the fan broke in and stole it. A fan paid a pretty penny for it, right? Right. You go right ahead and defend Turnabout Intruder. Turnabout Intruder has the great McCoy Scotty scene. There were like 2 of them in the whole series, and that's one of the 2. I always appreciated Turnabout Intruder for when they go out in the hall during the court martial, the hearing. Alf ended on a cliffhanger. I never watched Alf. It was just too much for me at that time. But yeah, didn't they do a TV movie that wrapped up? See, then you're into the nostalgia industry and your hot stuff. The weekly compete for ratings, fresh industry, not so much. But when you can cross over to nostalgia, suddenly you're good as gold again. They love you. They love you. Is it hard to? Are you making a deep cut here to the corn is as high as an elephant's eye? Is that what's going on? So, hey, we had corn in our garden in central Oklahoma. It was Gold Rush corn was my dad's favorite variety. Corn and watermelons. The 2 things I did not mind working and sweating for in August with the humidity when I was a kid was corn and watermelon out of our garden. And my mom in there cutting it off and putting it up in the freezer bags and steaming in August at night. Oh my God, I can still see her in her modern kitchen. And I mean that, her modern 60s kitchen. The kitchens, they're all running around and flipping in all the home shows now. Hey, BA, good to see you. Let's see. What's going on here? See, good point, Carl. Good point. If you're hearing something new every day, you're still alive. Yes. Well, see, this is a stop. This is why I say everybody's in their own situation. But, here you are. You're here with us right now. And that's what's been, as people have been aware of the virtual reality space, especially since pandemic. There you go. Bye, Glenn. Human life in modern TV means little. I remember life in TV and film back in the 20th century being important. So when someone died, it meant something. This is kind of true. Even the red shirts, right? Kirk would always have to talk about whose dad got him in the academy and et cetera, et cetera. Hi, Ma. How's it going up on the Mercy missions up in the North Carolina flood country? Oh. Yeah. What happens when his politics of the dominant spacefaring nation becomes highly polarized to extremes? Well, when one of the poles doesn't really believe or trust in science, apparently. An actual question. William Mann first time to speak up here, first time caller. In my experience, which behind the scenes folks you've interacted with have the most encyclopedic and detailed memories of episodes, moments, scene, tasks, etc.? You mean aside from the Akutas and Doug? um, well, I mean, I think, Dave and Liz from their shows, but over the years, Bob Justman was great as long as he was with us. It was really funny. I'll always remember this. Alan Sims and Joe Longo alternated being prop master on The Next Generation until DS9 came along. And then Joe Longo went over to DS9 full time, and Alan took TNG full time. And of course, by that time, they'd had the gold room storage had been filled with a lot of stuff they could go and repurpose. Or if it was Klingon, Romulan, Cardassian, Bajoran, whatever, it had already been made and they could just pull it out and touch it up. It wasn't so much like square one energy had to go into every little thing. And I remember that Joe Longo was a great guy, but Alan Sims spoiled me because Alan Sims had an amazing memory for things. And he had paper just when I sat down to interview him for the companion. And Joe, thank God we had photos, because he would kind of just chuckle and go, "Oh yeah, I remember this. Oh yeah, I remember that." And I'd have to get really specific and pull him along on something and show him pictures. And then he was good. But Alan would just, Alan Sims was one of the first guests we had on Portal 47 10 years ago. Yeah, that's one case. Ron Moore and Dan Curry have a great encyclopedic remembrance. Now, this is not being fair because it's when it gets up to be 20 and 30 years on folks, but in the day and getting it recorded is important. That's a thing. Oh, Ralph Sinensky's insane. He's 104 this year, and he still will remember the day, like what day of the week the shoot was that Jill Ireland. Well, Jill Ireland we thought she was sick on Thursday, so we changed, and then we came back, on this side of Paradise. It's amazing. He's amazing. And he's still with us at 104, which may get into some kind of cognitive theory there. But how about that for starters? See, Sherry, at the CDC, one had 25 years, the other had 27 years. Yeah, see, and it wasn't planned either. The thing that disappointed you about Picard is they changed the hand phasers back. No, they weren't exactly. And wasn't part of that to show that they were just old models? Talking about on the EOS or later? I need to bone up on this. You may have me at a disadvantage here. Dave, well, glad you've been back and good. Oh, you're just trying. Yeah. I think I've sung Oklahoma a few times in my days. But the corn is as high as an elephant's eye is the opening verse to "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning." The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like... Okay, that's enough of that. Yeah. Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad made death endless. It's going. Politics, the haves, the have-nots, gut-wrenching. Yeah. Do I think Inglorious Trexperts like Mark and Darren are pretty much up there in knowledge? Well, yeah. They come at it. I mean, they're both old fans. Mark covered Next Generation in huge detail in magazine when I was doing the companion and my concordances, different formats. But then he went off to have a career for 20 years and has come back to it. Darren's always worked in editing and visual effects and all of that, but they've both been fans. Darren's been a little closer to it over the long haul. And see, Mark doesn't know Voyager at all. Yeah. I mean, everybody has their holes. Video games is my weakness. because video games until STO, it didn't. There was nothing to stick. It changed. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. If we were able to give you a Sherry, you would have loved Life Support Live, I think. And they're all up there. If you ever want to go and watch, if you ever need a mental health break, go watch Ollie and I. We did 2 years of shows every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. live with a great audience of our lifers, and they're there. And a lot of folks in the chat here were some of our dedicated lifers for that too. So I would invite you to go check out Life Support Live. Trek through a mental health lens or mental health through a Trek lens. But I'm glad even Tuesday's live here has been a break for you, because you're doing a lot of hard work up there, but there's still so much devastation, I know. Oh, William, thank you for that. A very long time watcher and an occasionally live watcher. Thank you. Well, that's very sweet of you to say. Thank you for that. And I hope you enjoy the other things the books and the other things too. And jump in anytime. Yeah. And I'll say it, check out, Portal and the Treks too. That's how I stay afloat. Yes, I saw Michelle had a great time at FedCon. Yes. Oh, any recollections of your communicator columns responding to fans' nitpicks and continuity questions? I love those. Well, to be clear here, in the communicator, Richard Arnold had always written the communicator's Q&A column, and I started writing one for Titan when they took up the UK magazine. And then when communicator went away and Titan came over here, my column became the column then. And I went back and looked at some of the communicator Q&As that Richard would do, and he would do very short, quick answers. And I always wanted to answer something. I wanted to beat it out. I wanted to plummet. And I think Richard was trying to just churn through as many as he could. Of course, it was more that pre-internet. It was more that day. It's how people communicated. But in a big way, I would have a chance to respond to things. We would do articles, or we would slant, overall direction to doing this. Fans' nitpicks and continuity questions. Although that was me too. I would see something the minute it aired and go, oh, or I would go, 2364. They finally said the year. The night that was on in Neutral Zone, I fell off my chair. And little did I know that had been in-house for ages, and it grew out of Star Trek 4 and Mike trying to wrangle the chronology. Yeah. Use the cord. It's as thick as Well, thanks for that share, Sean. Yeah. There's a reason sometimes the chat is only in the live that's not promoted out here. The Treksperts have a very deep knowledge of Star Trek they love from their high time of fandom, less so of the other pockets. Less so of other pockets, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Crusher's Picard ship. Yeah. Well, it's like they brought out the laser pistols in early original series to get the idea across that they were old, much less reuse the prop. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, the last time Dee acted McCoy was from all those lost voices of it's Vulcan's Forge or Vulcan's Fury, the one that DC, like one of the holy grails right now of lost Star Trek is finding the recordings for that game. And all the cast recorded, it had all the original Shatner and Nimoy and Dee, but it was the last time Dee did any McCoy acting was for that game. Hey, Sherry, I'm supposed to in a couple of weeks. She will be out of school in about a week, and then we have 2 or 3 days set up for the weekend after. But I haven't got to see her in probably a couple of months. But I'm looking forward to it. We gotta see what happens if Starfleet Scouts really happens and comes about. We have to see if that's. I'm not doubting the report. I'm just doubting the report is about a startup. If there's ever anything really to see up front. Yeah. The young voice director about sabotage. Sabotage. There you go. Secret of Vulcan Fury. Yes. And that outtake is out there. It's out there. And speaking of being out there, gang, I think we are out of time. Thank you all for your patience. Thanks for everybody who came by today. It's not easy sometimes. See, I can always go to an ADA. I try to have at least a topic of some kind that maybe somebody, even if it's months later, flying by on YouTube, and maybe if only 47 people see it, it penetrates out there. It has a ripple effect somewhere. But thanks everybody for coming by with us here for another Tuesday. I have so many things and people to thank. Yes, thanks to all of our Patreoners there. Yay, yay, yay. Do you see? It's funny because I realized that well, let me just see here. Let me just see. Because I do want to mention it. I've got to get this set in my. There we go. I thought so. We recorded such a flurry. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And if you want to join my Patreon too, let's complete one thought at a time. Okay. If you want to jump in on my Patreon too, it's patreon.com/Trekland live, $5-10 a month. They take it. You can do more than that. I appreciate it so much, everybody. I know we're going to have guests coming up this month. I have a 1-week hiatus coming up at the end while I'll be traveling Oklahoma, and I could probably sit down and do this live, but I can't predict schedule, much less strength of internet where I'll be. So we'll have a week off. But before then, I think we have at least one or maybe two guests lined up here on Tuesday, which is awesome. So stick with me for that. We'll see you next week, and we'll figure out that schedule. All right. Otherwise, meanwhile, make sure and get in touch with me if you and your travels are going to make it to LA and you wind up with a spare day that you would rather do a real cool Trek tour than, yet another suicide Hollywood actor tour or something. Whatever it is. And yes, thank you for the Trek Files. Today's episode is our first with the great Ron D. Moore. Yeah, talking about Inside Star Trek. I saw your comment about the record, and I thought, are we up to Ron's episodes? We had a blast with that, and it's a first-time history. We're not doing a paper document. We're doing audio off the Inside Star Trek album. I think we have a paper document to start, but we wind up playing audio clips off of Gene's. Nothing like it had ever been done before, an audio record about the making of a show. And 7 years after, again, Star Trek was pushing the envelope here. The demand for information in media, we didn't have videotape yet. We did, but it wasn't a commercial thing. There's Star Trek pushing the envelope. The internet is just paper and stamps. Paper and stamps fandom of the 70s before there was an internet. I love making that. And we asked Ron to come on, and I said, is there something you want to talk about? Because I want to talk about the Inside Star Trek album. And I said, cool, we can do that. Good news, we'll be back next week and do different topic, but more of that. So if you have not heard the Trek Files yet, go over. And it's another good excuse to say, if you want to talk more about the Trek Files, make sure and get in with Trekophiles, spelled with an F, tonight on Monday. And the way you do that is join the Roddenberry Patreon, the Mission Log Patreon, for $1 a month. You get access to all of their shows and Patreons and the audiences and the message boards and the communities. But most of all, you get the Trek Files, best shot at that. And we're really developing a great bunch of regulars and people that drop by. But we just started. It's still in the beginning stages. If you were on my Patreon, you had a chance to come over for free. That window's closed, but it's still pretty reasonable to come over. I love talking. Love talking about the Trek Files, to finally know there's actual people that are watching, besides occasionally people pop up here. So yes, So Ron Moore is our guest on the Trek Files this week. You want to listen to it, go over and take a listen, and then jump in on the Mission Log Patreon and come over for Trekker Files tonight. Or the message boards are there 24/7 for the Trek Files and for all the other Roddenberry podcasts. All right. Other than that, gang, you know where to find me. It's Larry Nemechek on Twitter, on X, and on Blue Sky especially, and it's Larry's Trekland on Instagram and Facebook, and especially on YouTube. Please like and subscribe and do all the things. Portal47.net. We're going to be talking about Portal 47 this summer at the cons. Yeah. We're coming in with a slew of great guests. We've had Rod Bowman has done 3 guest nights because he doesn't want to talk forever, but he wants to talk about everything. So we have split it up. And it'll wind up being 3 90-minute sessions with the great Rob Bowman. And it's on tape. And I can't wait to even hit some specifics. We also have a surprise. All you Portales, we're about to unleash some amazingness of history on a guest night this next month. I'm not even going to mention it in person because we're also going to make sure and have them on the Trek Files in a couple of months, in short dose. So a lot of fun stuff happening. Is there still something new to do with Star Trek? Yes, there is, even though we're not getting new Strange New Worlds for a while. And it's thin on the horizon after that. There's always something new to bring to the table, to bring out, as we say in Portal, it's for all the folks who have no idea how much Star Trek they have no idea about, which sometimes includes me. That's what's fun about it. Because, people do need their mental health days currently, as always, but especially these days. So I think that's wrapping it up for us this week, everybody. Please stay well, do all the things. Remember Bruce Horak's crowdfunder on Indiegogo called Boldly Going. Watch his video. It's amazing. Show him some love if you can. What have we done here? We are we're staying healthy by doing all the things, and we are staying awoke by checking your sources. Don't get sucked into crazy. And Trek well, everybody.